great way to bring the community together. We all know that especially during the bull run, everyone is interested in Bitcoin. Every time Bitcoin hits a new high, people start doubting crypto lesser. But when we are in the bear market, everybody thinks crypto is a scam. So we did a lot of these events during the bear run to really bring people together without any paywalls, so free events, great people, good conversations, and we focused on talking about Web3 as the next iteration of the internet layer on which connected applications can be built. So continuing with that same trend, today we have a great panel of speakers. We have about 3 sessions, 2 fireside chats, and a full panel. And I'm pretty sure you're going to be walking away with good insights. Everybody up on stage here, excellent speakers. I'm very excited to get it started. These are the 3 panels, are the 3 sessions that we have. And after we wrap up with the 3 sessions, we will head into networking. We have some snacks in the back, but we are also going to get some hot food, pizza, something depending on the number of people in the room towards the end. So you get some hot food so you'll have enough to keep you full while you're networking. Whatever events we put together, it is hard, especially in Web3, it's all about building with the community. So I'm very grateful to all of our community partners who help us put together these events. Again, as I said, we don't make profit from the events, but we do have sponsors. At times we have the venues subsidized or we get free venues, people will pay for the food and drink, and that's how as a community we all come together and put these events together. These are partners that we have worked with or we work with on an ongoing basis. As I also mentioned, whatever content we create, it also gets amplified further, and these are our media partners that we work with. Out of these 3 media partners, they are based in UK, Southeast Asia, with audiences across the globe, and together they have a monthly unique views of about 10 million. So that's still not a small amount, and they get in front of 500,000 unique people every month. Now, a little bit about Orbis86. We started as an NFT project back in 2022. Since then, we've been building. We actually launched our NFT collection last year. But that being said, this year we are focused on building a platform that will work as utility as a service for Web3 communities. So one of the things we have observed is that a lot of the communities, whether it's communities centered around fungible tokens or non-fungible tokens, they obviously haven't had a good run in the bear, and utilities have been lacking because a lot of them are not integrated with any real-world applications. So our focus this year is to build platforms that are chain agnostic and that can provide utilities to these fungible and non-fungible tokens. The first thing that we're building out right now is a cross-chain gaming platform that will integrate existing fungible tokens, non-fungible tokens across multiple ecosystems, thus providing a utility to them. And from there on, we are going to be building forward. That being said, one of the things we also focus on is onboarding people. And I'm very proud to say that this is probably our 15th free event, and so far, through all the events combined, we have probably hosted over 3,000 to 4,000 people. Now, next up. Post-event, if you can help us fill out a survey, that would be great. I'll put this slide up later on. A quick thank you to 2 of our sponsors. We have Hedera and Hotcoin sponsoring this event today. Again, as sponsors, they help us take care of the food, venue expenses, and we were also supposed to have some good merch. Unfortunately, the first shipment was stolen from my port, and the second shipment was delayed. So I'm sorry that you guys just have bags and some fun things in there, but the main stuff that was supposed to come in just never got to me. Here's a quick overview on Hedera. We're going to have a fireside chat, so let's just quickly look at a overview on what Hedera is, and we'll continue from there.
Hedera is the most used, sustainable, public distributed ledger in the world, with use cases from preserving testimony to anchoring warning systems, ensuring the safe storage of vaccines, and allowing us to get back to life as we knew it. offsetting our carbon footprint while enjoying the new token economy. These are just a few of the game-changing applications built on Hedera, which is governed by the world's leading organizations and fueled by HBAR, the world's greenest cryptocurrency. What future will you build?
Similarly, I also owe thanks to our second sponsor, Hotcoin Global is an exchange that was established in Australia in 2017. And since then, they have had a user base of over 3 million people globally, and they continue to expand. Do go and check them out, especially if you have a token that you're launching, because in US, what they do is they do invest in companies here in the United States, especially people who are looking to get in front of audiences in Australia or also in Asia, in Eastern Asia. That's where their user base is. Also, the Coin Republic, they have been our media partners for a year and a half now, and I just want to give a special shout out to the Coin Republic because they have been covering not just all of the events that we put out together, but we are also hosting a one-day event at Dubai during Cooking 2049. So if any of you are coming to Dubai, come for the event. Again, the event is free to attend, but it will have over 100 investors and over 50 startups attending. So we are definitely excited for that. Finally, thank you to Devin for being the sponsor from University of Washington. We did get this venue at a subsidized rate, and again, thanks to Devin for getting that figured out. I also want to give a shout out to Christina from Continuum. Christina, do you want to come and talk about Continuum for 2 minutes?
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Christina Brugman. I'm CEO of Continuum. We're a marketplace for embedded blockchain and AI products and services, as well as events and support to help the blockchain brands grow. We're really excited to be here at University of Washington supporting the Orbis86 event. We're really excited about the landscape of how regulations are evolving. It sounds like maybe like the least sexy thing you could talk about is regulation, but I'll tell you what, it's all about data. Everyone snoozing out there? No, you guys actually are leaning in. Look at you guys. You're like, we like data here. We're here at Orbis 86 event. We're here in Intellectual House at University of Washington, talking about the new standards of blockchain and AI. Not to mention all of the things that we're going to need to be able to teach our regulatory partners and our policymakers. We're here in an election year, and Continuum is a group that is very forward-thinking on US compliance. What does that mean? A whole lot of data points. It means that our brands have to get through a very strict vetting process in order to come into our community where we meet week over week and at least once a month have an in-person event where we get together. We're mostly focused in the US, but we do have members all over the world. And they join us for our virtual networking on Wednesdays. You guys can find out more. Follow our Twitter at Continuum3000. Also our website, continuum.market. You can always find me on LinkedIn, Christina Bruchon. They call me Data Points. I'll tell you everything there is to know about data science and where the blockchain and AI landscape is evolving. We're excited to be here, so I'll turn it back over to Ms. Sonia. Can we give a round of applause for Ms. Sonia?
There we go. Alright, we just want to make sure nobody calls off stage because I definitely don't have liability coverage. Okay, so I also have a special friend here. She is a pivotal figure in Cardano, and she also leads Cardano Women. Guys, can you please put your hands together for Ali. Alexandra.
Thank you, Sonia. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, non-binary folk. It doesn't have to see in the room. My name is Alexandra. On social media, I am Ali Illustrated. I am the CEO and founder of Cardano Women. When I first got into blockchain, I was pissed because I kept seeing statistics saying that there was a low amount of women activity, participation, investing, things of that nature. And I just never conformed to being told what I can and cannot do. So when I got in, I figured, how can I change this? How can I take part in this new America, you could more or less say. And through that was by wanting to empower women by meeting them at the intersection of art, technology, and education, because that's what I found my affinity for and love for. And so Cardano Women just happens to be a big umbrella, really. It's more or less like a silent signal for individuals to see that there is a neighborhood, as we see that there's different blockchains. We've got Hedera, we've got Ethereum, we've got Cardano, all kinds of chains to choose from, but it's a silent signal that there's a community out there for anyone. There's a safe neighborhood. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help. And I also have an NFT project myself, digital assets. And my main focus is culture conservation, because as we see technology advancing, we see a lot of things disappearing, and it breaks my heart. I'm also a first-generation Panamanian American, and I didn't learn about who I was or where I was from until I was 15. Because my mom was like, you need to be more American than Americans, you need to be more Hispanic than Panamanians when you go back home. But home was every 3 years, if that. And so I want to play a small role of a mirroring effect. If you see who you are in the blockchain, when you look into the space, I feel like you see your gender, you see your culture, and also I kind of attribute the blockchain as a big Apple cloud. Once you put it up there, you can't take it down. So I feel like that would be a great movement to take part in. It's a different project, but it's something that I really look forward to. And if you have any questions, feel free to pull me aside and ask away. If I don't have the answer today, I surely will find it. And then you can also find me on creditwomen.io online or through Twitter, Instagram, and launching a Facebook group soon. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Again, Ali also hosts events for Cardano Women. She hosts them in person and also online. The same for Continuum as well. So if you're looking to get involved with more events, even Continuum hosts a bunch of events across the globe, in fact, both online and in person. So again, a big shout out to these two fantastic women. I'm actually glad that even though we have a smaller number of people in the room, I think I see almost the same number of women as I typically see in a Web3 conference, which has 100 people. So I think women are very glad to see that. Yes, and we actually have a lot of women up on on stage also. And I'm very excited to get started with our session, because I'm sure you are. And I would love to invite May up here on stage. And May and I are going to be delving into Hedera, as well as May's project, which is HashPack.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining me, May. You know, I have the people I'm pretty sure are tired of hearing me, so I'm just going to ask you to start off with your introduction.
Sure. My name is May. I am the co-founder of HashPack Wallet, which is the leading wallet on Hedera Hashgraph. Hedera is an L1 network, just like Bitcoin, just like Ethereum, Cardano, Aptos, those kind of things. We started in 2020 and built our first basically MVP for the wallet over the period of 6 months, basically part-time, 4 people in the Hedera community. We had never met each other before, we just decided to build something. It turns out that the people that ended up being in the project, we have 10 years of experience in our various professions, and we came out with a product that basically took the lead from the day that it launched. And so I'd love to be here to talk about the growth of the Hedera community, of how we've impacted the space, how much money we've brought into the space, not how much money we've made, because we're just a startup. But that's hopefully coming, right? That's why we start businesses, theoretically. We actually just started because we didn't see a good wallet in the space, and we got sick of it. So that was fun. Building a wallet, building a company, a group of people from all over the world. We've got a guy in the UK, we've got someone in the States, we've got 2 Canadian, we've got an Australian, and we all come together and made this wallet, which now has 30,000 monthly active users, sorry, daily active users. And also through all of the wallets that were created with HashPack, we secure $700 million in HBAR and another $300 million in tokens. So over $1 billion are secured in HashPack today, and that's really kind of mind-boggling for me, because we just kind of made something in our free time and then went full time on that. Other things that we have done in the ecosystem, we spearheaded NFTs and NFT marketplaces. We built the first standard for NFTs. I actually wrote it, and I based it off of like the OpenSea metadata standard, so it's cross-compatible, but actually extends it a little bit to make it a little bit more usable. And we saw the DeFi Summer, which they're promoted, and like just got a whole bunch of NFT projects hype. They went to NFT NYC and did a bunch of conferences there. That was in 2022. In 2023, we saw a big rise in DeFi in Hedera, and now in 2024, now that the crypto winter is kind of coming out and thawing, we've seen a ton of growth in the ecosystem. I think we'll talk about that a little bit, but that's where I come from. And I really actually prefer to have a smaller, more intimate group. I get to talk to everybody here. I get to hear about what you guys are all doing. And I think that that's really where the value in these events are, is just sort of talking and kind of learning each other's
insights from the audience. I agree. Well, before we go further into the Hedera ecosystem, I do want to touch base on, like, what is the ecosystem about, right? Let me ask I think a lot of people who are working on Hedera, but let me ask this question, right? How many of you here know about Hedera, probably have some HBARs? Can you just put your hands up? Okay, so it's 50%, which is actually much better than a lot of other places that we've been at. Of the remaining people, how many of you have heard about Bitcoin? Expecting at least heard of Bitcoin? Yeah, okay, alright. At least because there are places in the world, guys. The world is a big place. We have 8 billion plus people, and there are many people who don't even know about Bitcoin, right? So it's a fair question to ask. Now that being said, let me ask you this, right? Why Hedera? Why did you start building on Hedera? And there are so many blockchains out there. As for those who may not know, Bitcoin started as a technology, right, to provide a decentralized version of financial institutions. So we are not talking about Bitcoin right now, but that's how the Bitcoin journey started. And following on the footsteps of Bitcoin, we had Ethereum come out and a bunch of chains. Why did you choose Hedera? And as somebody who has been building on Hedera since the very beginning, because you guys were also the first major wallet to come out there, what would you say are the strengths of Hedera as a technology as well, which made you choose Hedera as the chain on which you wanted to go full time?
Yeah, absolutely. Hedera is probably most attractive for its technology. It's definitely what got me interested in it, and it is built not as a blockchain but as a hash graph. And so you can think of it as a chain is sequential, where its hash graphs can do things in parallel. And they've got a lot of good talks about that on how that exactly works. But the end result is that you've got a platform that is very fast, very secure, and it is a lot more performant than a lot of especially the older chains that exist today. So Hedera is a very good one. They're doing right now, I think, 1,000 transactions per second.
10,000. But
Their
limit is 10,000.
10,000, but
They're
they're
processing.
actually
Yeah.
1,000 transactions per second consistently for the past year. And that is just showing how reliable, how performant the ecosystem is. Bitcoin is about 7 transactions per second. Ethereum, I think, gets up to 15. And there are other chains that are very performant as well, so let's not discount them, but that's one of their strength, and it's showing that it can do that amount of volume every day. The other thing is finality. So one of the properties of Hashgraph is that when you put a transaction onto the network, it will come to finality, it will come to 100% agreement between all the nodes within, I think, 4 seconds right now, 4 to 6 seconds. And Bitcoin, I think, takes about 10 minutes. And other
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, right? And so finality means you can be sure that your transaction that you put on the network is there and is never going to get retracted because the voting didn't come in time. So that's another benefit of it. Hedera is also a very sustainable network. It's several orders of magnitude more green than.
I think they had a post out which said that today Hedera uses the same amount of energy in a year as a single family house does. And it has processed like a few million transactions.
Yeah, it's very efficient, and they have a big emphasis on sustainability. And I read recently that they are also 100% carbon neutral as a platform, so they put a big emphasis on that, and some of their enterprise partners are focused on that.
So, here's some quick trivia, okay, just to make sure that people are not falling asleep, alright? So, who knows when did Bitcoin go live? Like, Bitcoin actually started processing transactions, the year. How many guys know? Christina,
2009.
2009, right? So, Bitcoin has been around since 2009.
Halloween of 2009, which is why Halloween is considered the Satoshi holiday in the industry.
Yes, and that was also the time in 2008 when the white paper came out, right? So it's October to October. That being said, Hedera went live on May in 2018. Now, since Bitcoin went live till date, Bitcoin has actually processed around 975 million transactions. So, just extrapolating on that, how many transactions do you think Hedera might have processed so far? And you can just throw random guesses. 975 million on Bitcoin, which is the longest running chain. Random guesses. You will get a cutie orange in the back if you answer it. Just throw out some numbers. A trillion.
How many do you think?
I wish.
I didn't hear the question.
How many transactions?
How many transactions do you think Hedera has processed on mainnet? So remember, here we're talking about everything as a technology, right? We will get to market cap at some point, but mostly our event is going to be focused on Web3 as the next layer to build on. Douglas?
$1 billion?
$1 billion, okay. Anyone else?
$2 billion.
2 billion? Alright. So we have a trillion,
A billion.
which I quit. And then we have a billion.
2 billion what?
2 billion, okay. Now, Hedera has actually processed over 40 billion transactions.
So it's closest.
Closer to a billion than a trillion, I guess. But 40 billion on mainnet is still a fairly significant number. And none other blockchain actually comes even close to that. They are a great technology, not to say, again, like May said, I'm going to say that most of the newer blockchains are focused on certain niches. Hedera is focused on ESG, right? So they're focused on sustainability and they're also focused on enterprise. And that is the reason why Hedera is built to process thousands of transactions per second because enterprises need that kind of processing speed and they also need fixed costs. Because how many enterprises do you see who are calculating their expenses in Ethereum or BTC, right? Or in a price that is volatile. So that's another unique thing about Hedera, that their transaction cost is not dependent on the price of the native token, which is HPAC, but it is fixed in US dollars. And most of the transactions will cost you $0.0001. So it's a fraction of a cent in gas fees. Now, with that being said, Hedera, your wallet, I'm going to call it the people's wallet, retail wallet. You have had over, I know you said 30,000 active users, but I'm going to say it's like tens of thousands of wallets created on HashPack today, right?
Yeah, we have maybe about over 100,000 monthly active users, 30,000 a day, and I think that the 100,000 user count is also just a bit out of date because that was what we were using last year, and we've kind of quadrupled our growth this year in the past few months, so it's been crazy.
Yes, this year the Hedera DeFi ecosystem went from a total value locked on their largest DEX that was like 15 to 20 million last year to close to 150 million this year. So in a year, that growth the DEX has seen a 10x growth. So with that being said, I'm going to ask you that from a retail and enterprise standpoint, what are some of the major wins that we have seen over 23 and 24 of Hedera that you think the people in the room should know about?
Let me check my notes here because this is Hedera based and it's not my company based, so I really want to make sure that I talk about the things that
Get the right points.
Unfortunately, I left those notes in my car, so we'll just keep doing it.
But I can help you.
So one of the things is they're filling up the governing council, and the governing council is composed of 32 large corporations such as Boeing, LG, IBM, Google. And they're from all.
Can you quickly explain to the people in the room what is the governing council like in a sentence, and who you already mentioned some members? Yeah. Maybe you can just talk about what the governing council's role is.
So the governing council are the group that manages the network. They come together for board meetings every month, and they vote on how to run the network, on decisions that are being made strategically, and what they're providing funding for, things like that. So they're the ones that actually make the decisions on how the network is going to go and where they're going to go in the future. And this is in contrast with other L1s where the people who are in charge of it are the ones that hold the token or the ones that are part of the original group the original company that formed it. Hedera went the other way and decided to go decentralized in governance and get a whole bunch of really big enterprises from all different kinds of fields to come in and develop this together.
So that is unique about Hedera. Also, for those who may not know, Hedera is still a permissioned chain. So there are these governing council members, these large enterprises, they also are validators. A lot of people actually look at it and then they say that, hey, if Hedera is permissioned, then it's not truly decentralized. They are moving towards community nodes, so that's a step towards decentralization. But the idea of a permission change was also intentional. Because today, if you go and look at Bitcoin or Ethereum, what you will see is that 80 to 90% of the Bitcoin that's already available in the market in circulation, and also Ethereum that's in circulation, 80 to 90% of the total value was actually owned by just top 1% or 2% of the wallets. So then, unfortunately, again, because people can get Bitcoin and Ethereum on exchanges, what happens is the bigger pockets tend to move the market. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it is decentralized, because now you have a few wallets with the power to make movements. So Hedera's move of setting up the governing council was actually intentional, because they didn't want that kind of power at the hands of a few people, and they wanted to bring in enterprises that already have a huge presence in the public eyes. So if they were trying to move in any shady way, they have their reputation at stake. So that was actually a very intentional move. Now, with that being said, is there anything that jumps to your mind when you think about, oh, this was an interesting facet that I looked at being built over the past year or 2 years, and you might want to throw a light on it?
I think the biggest one, at least in terms of DeFi and the retail space, is the addition of wallet connect standards to Hedera. So now we are compatible with the rest of the other chains. So if you're used to building a dApp on Ethereum or on not Bitcoin, but
Any
either
wallet
chain,
chain.
any major chain that uses wallet connect, which is then we also support it now, and I think that's going to make it easier for people to build on it. That was a big win that we did earlier this year.
Yes, actually Hedera, so Solidity is the language for programming. With Ethereum, what happened was Ethereum also added a layer of programming, and that programming is done in a programming language called Solidity. So a lot of the blockchains, they have their own languages in which people can code. Hedera as a ledger originally started with support for JavaScript. So their original SDK is still available, and it's very easy to code with it, because you probably have more JavaScript developers in the world than wallet users, right? So you do have a whole bunch of JavaScript developers, talent that is easily accessible. But also, with Ethereum being launched in 2013, there was a huge audience of developers already supporting different chains, because they were coding in Solidity. So a few months back, I guess in September last year, Hedera also announced full EVM compatibility. So anyone who now has a smart contract on any chain that's written in Solidity can actually port it over to Hedera. They also announced the integration of two major oracles. And oracles are responsible for bringing off-chain data on-chain. So developers can build with those oracles. And as May said, in order to connect with all of these different EVM contracts, the Wallet Connect standard was also released a month back with full compatibility. So now you can use HashPack. I think HashPack is still a great wallet on Hedera, but if you're just used to using MetaMask, you can get that.
Sure, absolutely. I think JavaScript being supported by Hedera is one of its biggest strengths, because everybody in the business world, in the development world, most people, especially if they're in web development, they don't know how to use JavaScript, whereas Solidity is its own beast. You gotta learn how to write in it, learn how to think in it. JavaScript makes Hedera extremely accessible, and it's one of the big reasons why we built it in the first place. Yeah, it's just been real fun.
Now, since we're talking about building, let me ask you, for HashPack 2024, I feel like, and guys and I have been a part of Hedera for a year and a half, and I've seen me and the team grow organically. And in fact, Jacob from the team was one of the first people to onboard me to Hedera, so special thanks to him. I want to ask you that what is your roadmap for 2024?
So, HashPack, we run this, we run our strategy very fluidly. We're very locked into the community of Hedera. We came from it and we developed along with it. So the things that we build are the things that the community wants, that the community has to make use of it. And I mean this from both the user side, so the people who are using HashPack every day, and also the developers who are building on Hedera. So the things that we built help to enable both those to kind of connect together. So coming into 2024 with DeFi really starting to take off, with Oracle's coming and allowing more advanced DeFi platforms to come in, we are really planning to build out the things that help those projects come into Hedera and get visibility, get the community to be aware of what they're building, and then start using them. So a big part of what we do and why we're successful is we connected with all of these projects that are coming onto Hedera and gave them a platform to kind of build awareness. We did do marketing collaborations with them where we connect them directly with our users, and then now everybody in the Hedera space knows about this new lending platform that is coming in, or this new staking opportunity that's coming in. And I think that that's really where we're focusing on going forward, is just continuing to help this ecosystem grow. And I think that that's one of the big things that sets Web3 apart from other spaces, is that when you collaborate with each other, when you're able to talk to one another and find ways for your projects to work together, that kind of collaboration multiplies because the users are so engaged and they're so willing to learn and try new things that when you come in and present something to them and say, hey, you know, you use HashPack every day, have you tried these guys? They're gonna allow you to do these trades easier, or they're allowing you to access this new asset class easier. That's really exciting for them. So that's where we're going.
Thanks, May. And just to give you a quick example, today when people go to HashPack, they can swap their tokens, but the swapping is integrated with one of the major dexes on Hedera. They can also buy NFTs. The NFT trading is also integrated with one of the major marketplaces on Hedera. So what happens is, from the wallet itself, people can get a pretty good experience. Like, they can do things from the wallet itself. But the most important thing is that the wallet is integrated with other players in the ecosystem. And I feel in Web3 that is extremely important. It is important that we collaboratively build and grow versus just going back to the good old days of competition or cutthroat competition under rat race. It's these elements of Web3 that really excite me. The community coming together, the community building together. With that being said, May, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who is listening.
Thank you.
Next up, I'm really excited to call on stage Devin and Nita.
A partner with Orbis86. Again, my name is Devin Sinal. I also work with the University of Washington. The last few years I've led finance and supply chain transformation efforts. We migrated a 4 to 5-year-old financial infrastructure at the University and State over to a cloud-based enterprise reporting planning system. And I currently lead some different initiatives on the supply chain with medicine. In addition to Orbis86, I'm also a co-founder of Hedera with the Project Peanut Foundation, so please go ahead and check that out. And I would also like to introduce Nita, who's great, and have her talk a little bit more about herself before we kick off the conversation.
So Nita representing T-Mobile here. Glad to be with all of you. And we foray as a team into Web3 about a couple years ago, coming out of the pandemic. I've had a series of successful launches. I'm fortunate enough to work in a team called Partnerships and Innovation. And that's essentially what we do, and the space is right there. So we focus a lot on just Web3 technology, not so much crypto.
Awesome, thank you. And sorry, did you say you work at T-Mobile?
T-Mobile USA.
Okay, you have some representatives. So I think the burning question is, Nita, can you tell us why we should all convert our cellular carriers to T-Mobile?
Let's see. Does anybody here like to be on the nation's fastest and largest network? And does anybody here like to have plans that start at $30 a line and go higher based on your needs? It's really, really good value for that. Anybody travel? Anybody get on a plane recently? Right? And so you use Wi-Fi on the plane. Well, that can be free if you're a T-Mobile customer. And the list goes on and on and on. We have Netflix on us, we have Apple TV, we have a bunch of goodies that we offer. So what's not to love? And
bunch of me and my friends and co-workers are here, and we all have a 15% off employee discount for you. If you want to switch, we're right here.
Well, thank you. Sign me up after this, okay?
Got it?
Cool. So you mentioned that you were on the wholesale innovation team. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what's happening?
Right, so to answer that, I'll just explain how T-Mobile is structured. Most of you know us as the Magenta brand, you know the consumer, those of you that live in the area, see the Magenta buildings all lit up in Bellevue. We're a large consumer business. We're the largest network in the country, and we've divided ourselves into consumer, B2B, and wholesale. So 3 lines of business. Consumer is consumer, we sell cell phones to people, retail, it's been around forever. It's evolving for us there. Fixed wireless is actually a category in which we are growing the most. So that's an interesting pivot, that everybody wants bundles. They want the wireless phone and their internet connectivity all provided by one carrier. And then there's B2B, that sells to large enterprises. A lot of the names that you had up on the board with Hedera are who we sell to as well. And that's a different sales motion. There's only one way for T-Mobile to go in that space, which is up. So we're growing there. And then with small and medium businesses too, we have a special focus, CPaaS type offerings, UCaaS, unified communication type offerings there, bunch there. And then let me come to the best, right? Because we work there, it's the wholesale. So wholesale is an interesting word. When you think wholesale, what brand comes to mind?
Costco.
You didn't even wait for anybody else to answer. Got it. So, and that's kind of how we are. We have this network with a large capacity. It's huge. It covers 330 million people, 2 million square miles. So lots of capacity, ultra-charged capacity. So super high speeds. It's about 2x of anybody else here in the nation, and super low latencies. So we want to have everybody use it. And we have our customers, we have B2B customers, but there's more space for others to come in and consume it. And so we launch a bunch of brands. One of our most notable brands that you all may know is Mint Mobile. I don't know if anybody's heard of Mint Mobile. Deadpool fans in the audience, I take it? Okay.
Also, the recent acquisition.
Recent acquisition is one of our success stories. So
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, man, we hang out with him every day. Just come over and get happy hour on the campus, and he's there. I actually personally started working with a company called Ultra Mobile. They're based out of Anaheim, California, and that was the original brand. And they noticed that it wasn't a good digital prepaid brand at a low cost in the market about 7 to 8 years ago, and launched Mint Mobile. And at this point, it's legendary, it's history. I can't tell you how many Hollywood stars are calling Nathan Love from our business development team saying, how hard can it be? Ryan Reynolds did it, so we want to do it. So that's kind of what our team does. Google Fi is another one. That's a bigger name. And there's a bunch of smaller brands in the market like Leica, etc. So,
what are some of the demographics that you spent that T-Mobile acquired through that acquisition?
I think it's largely Hispanic. Yeah, and there's a focus on calling outside the country too. And so sometimes there's a lot of underserved in there. So that's what we do, we stand up brands. But this moment of time is very interesting because we're not just setting up the big and the wireless and connectivity. What we have moved to is setting up more brands in the Web3 space as an example that are innovative. For example, Helium Mobile. And then we set up another one that uses AI and leverages a network called Unveiling. So we're pivoting away from just big, large to a bunch of smaller ones in the ecosystem, and that's where we see the convergence of 5G, AI, and Web3.
Yeah, so what would you imagine some of your top use cases for adoption be with either AI or gaming?
I'll talk about a couple launches that we did in the last almost a year and a half now. So it's actually not that new, which is great because we're seeing growth. So I'll start with Helium Mobile. That's the first Web3 partner that we launched. They're basically decentralized wireless. And the idea is that they have a crowdsourced network, and the consumers of that network get to participate in the Web3 economy. They get tokens or some kind of loyalty for using Helium Mobile's network. And while you're home, you're connected to a partnership they had with Freedom Fight through which they acquired the network. When you leave your home, you end up using T-Mobile. So, and they do some creative things to let that work in a certain manner. That's a great example of you using NFTs, you're using wallets, you're using the blockchain there. I think they're Solana, and then you're using T-Mobile's network. So that's one. Another one that we did for AI is an AI pin launched by a company called Unveiling. Small but very audacious goals on wanting to disrupt cell phones as you know them today. Their vision is the world should be screenless, and you have this tiny little device on you, and it's reading email in my ear right now as I'm presenting to you. I'm just kidding, but that's really what that is. And then if you ever feel the need to type, you have haptic touch on your hands. So it's using a lot of like a textual, a lot of sensors, a lot of cameras to provide the experience as an alternate, and it's completely AI powered in the cloud. Those are two examples. One more that's very, very important, I know it's a longer answer, is Flix Mobile. And they are I think they're based out of Europe, they come into the US, but they're with Hedera. So they actually are using Hedera's ledger, and they have some cool and unique offerings on what happens if I lose my key, how do I recover it. So those are some of the use cases that they're tackling, and they're going to be our first digital only Web3 and AI, just like Mint was, right, for the virus category back in the day. That's kind of what they want to achieve for Web3. And then there's more, there's one called Really.com, which is also decentralized wireless. So yeah, we can keep going. There's a lot of partners coming in, and it's a super exciting time. So please come talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. If you think you have a solution, we have millions of customers, even in the wholesale ecosystem, that Mint customers would benefit from. You think there's a market there? And then you yourself, University of Washington, if you would like to be a brand with T-Mobile, ask T-Mobile, right? Go ask T-Mobile.com. We are launching a full easy button for that.
Oh, yeah. 5G enabled, yes, please. Then I want to ask though, is T-Mobile specifically going to be developing their own blockchain project, or are you looking to partner and acquire primarily?
So at this moment of time, we are learning, and we're just trying to understand the space. Our partners in Germany, like Deutsche Telekom, they actually invest and own pieces in companies that work in the blockchain space. So our approach is more we are learning through our partners, and then eventually, for things like call data record processing, etc., we could go with some technology like this, but we're evaluating right now. Through partnerships, innovation.
That's awesome. Okay, this one, I don't know if you can answer, but due to T-Mobile's interest in the blockchain Web3 space, do you think T-Mobile, or would you have inside track on whether or not they would be planning to add it to their balance sheet?
I think at this moment of time, I am not heard of any such option, is what I could say. But that doesn't mean I hang out with every financial leader in the company. So, to my knowledge, I don't see any such plans right now.
Could become advice, not financial advice.
Not financial advice in any way, shape, or form.
I forgot to figure out that advice.
Oh, wait, she already gave alpha. Are you kidding me?
We can offer you connectivity and cell phone services. And we have a beautiful lab, by the way, in W. We have a lot of innovative spaces that you can come set up shop and we can co-develop with you. So we offer a lot of support to the innovation ecosystem.
Interesting. Does T-Mobile provide grants to potential partners in the same way like Hedera might provide grants to potential startups?
There's one thing we've been discussing. So we have a couple different programs. You compete and you win a certain prize, for example. Like there's a challenge going on right now. The Deutsche Telekom has the challenge. We have a lab where there are options available for funding. And then with Hedera specifically, we're trying to understand the use cases that they got in Europe and see if there's an appetite to do some of that here. Flix Mobile is an example of where they innovated together and we sign them up for connectivity. So there's many different ways to partner, brands being one of them.
Okay. And how would we find out more information about that?
So talk to Nathan Love, sitting right there, the man with the big T on his jacket right there. So he'll connect us, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect you with the right folks.
He's going to be busy on this. Yeah. All right. So my last question for you was, let's see, if you share with us your first experience in crypto, or like what was the first blockchain that you actually experimented with personally?
For me, I have to say, this is not financial advice or any of that, but I'm going to give you the safe answer because I'm on stage and she told me it's going to be broadcasted to like 1,500 or more people, right? Could be 15,000. So I'm going to stick to the standard BTC movement that we have going on right now. That is approved and pretty exciting, right? Great milestone for everyone involved and so much legitimacy. Such a different mood, even in this room, from last year at this time. So that was my first experience on paper, on camera.
Thank you for sharing that. My first, I don't know if you can see my socks, but it's kind of a little Doge.
Nice.
But I
Don't know about that as man, don't know, never heard of it.
I do hold it well, in the HashPack business. So, thank you so much, Mila. It's a pleasure talking.
Likewise.
With that being said, I would love to invite on stage Christina. And Christina is going to put together this fantastic panel over the next 30 minutes. This is also our last panel for the day. And while Christina is up here on stage, we're going to get I'm going to get everybody in the room some good food. So we have that. Guys, please put your hands together for Christina.
Thank you, Ms. Nonia. Holy moly. So, as I mentioned earlier, they call me data points in the industry. I've heard a lot of data points in the last panel. Did you guys hear some data points in that one? That was a lot of alpha. We're really excited to talk about the regulatory path to clarity for digital assets. It's one of those topics that the SEC is not exactly going to put out a press release and tell us what we can or cannot do. But there's a lot of SEC compliance lawyers that we've met with, so we represent thousands of hours of what that regulation landscape looks like. It's one of the reasons why the speakers tonight were saying, not financial advice, and things like that. It's because of the regulations. At Continuum, we have a really strict vetting process that makes us look at the tech, team, and intentions. And we have to understand how each one of those brands is going to affect not just blockchain and AI space, but also people like my grandmother, people like you guys in the audience, wherever you're coming from, blockchain and AI is going to be touching your life. So one of the things that we are really excited to talk about tonight is how each one of these brands has to think about their own regulatory path. And I'm really excited to welcome to the stage two brands at Continuum. One of them is GoodBlock, and we'll have two speakers to discuss their services. But I can tell you that the data points are ESG compliance, big data storage, which the world has never seen before, and impact per region starting in Africa. I'd like to go ahead and welcome up also a brand that is near and dear to my heart, tackling something monumental down in Honduras. I'm very excited to have Johnny Rigby, and I want to give a shout out to his partner, Dean Demko, as well, who couldn't be here with us tonight. But they're trying to do something very, very big that will absolutely change regulations. So we hope to have more conversations with all of you and out in the world who's listening to this and watching this after the fact. If you care about regulations, you want to sit down with policymakers, understand and be able to champion your business model and your compliance model, as well as your cybersecurity model, which is the other big part of what we've got at Continuum, then give us a call. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage Douglas Horn and Erica Elder of GoodBlock, as well as Johnny Rigby from Access Granted. All right, let's go ahead and start with some introductions, and then of course I'm going to be asking about the regulatory landscape for all of your projects. I'm really excited tonight for Ms. Erica to be here. It's the first time she's joined me on stage at Continuum, so big shout out to you and the work that you do. Happy International Women's Month. Thank you. Happy International Women's Month to you as well. My name is Erica Elder. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at Good Block Technologies. We're sort of an innovation lab focusing on some pretty big things in Web3 infrastructure, especially. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Pass the mic down. Oh yes, I'm sorry. That's all great.
We'll share. We're really good at sharing.
So hey everyone, I'm Johnny Whitby. I'm co-founder of Access Granted. We're looking at different ways to introduce Web3 into a tribal community in the Honduras. Right now we're building C-Chain, which is an NFT-powered supply chain transparency protocol, all the way back to the lobsters that we're going to catch in our very first seafood processing plant on the Caribbean coast down there in tribal regions in Honduras. Super exciting, lots of regulations. I think I just gave you like 20 right there.
That's right.
Hi, my name is Douglas Warren. I'm the CEO of Good Block. I work with Erica every day. We're actually, core team is really actually a women-run company. Like 3 women and 2 men are the founders of everything we're doing now. So, and it's been great for us. What we do is we build technologies and tools that we believe are going to be foundational in the next coming few years. And sometimes we're right. And so we have a number of projects, and interestingly, a lot of these are coming to a head right now. We have L1 blockchain in Africa focused on compliance and mass adoption. That's called ETU. We have what will be the world's first UN certified decarbonized cloud computing service called Ithaca. That is just waiting on final certification, but that's going to be, this month. We thought it was going to be this week, but we'll say this month because paperwork. We have the leading blockchain governance platform in the world. It's been sandboxed for 4 years. It's called the Decide Governance Engine, which I created several years ago, intending to make it a product of our own, and we ended up open sourcing the engine so it could be like the latest of governance, and then we built tools on top of it that are not equal anywhere else. If you're interested, so we've got like that kind of stuff. We talk about that stuff, and we are working on a regenerative agriculture project in Ghana called Green Earth Agro, which will it's already raised food. Will be farming 10,000 acres, which is enough to feed 1 million people consistently, and it's for primarily bringing local food production, because there's a big problem in West Africa. We've done some things that have addressed the biggest problem in developing world farming challenges, and we look forward to rolling that out as a platform elsewhere in the world. I think we're really going to solve some problems for everyone, because hungry people today do not care about climate change in 20 years. I'll stop there. We've got a lot of time, or I'll be here on it.
Oh, we're going to keep going, actually.
You guys tell me about what you're interested in.
So there's a lot to peel back with all of that, but what I'd like to do, I think Eric and I will share the mic here, but what I'd like to do is have each project talk about, there we go, tech, team, and intentions. And Erica, as the COO, she has to be over the side of the marketing things. She can't say certain things until it's time to actually say them. There's a lot of compliance when it comes into how to roll these products out to the world. While we're on the topic, I will also say there's a lot of compliance around how to tell the world that you are raising for a product or things like that. There's compliance for that. Mr. Douglas.
She was also the board president of the Telos Foundation for 2 years, so she had a lot of compliance.
There we go.
Also touch on.
For those of you that don't know, Telos is its own layer 1 blockchain, correct? Layer 1? Yeah. So there's a lot there. So let's start with that, Ms. Erica. Let's talk about Good Block, tech, team, and intentions. The team is incredible. So I'll pass the.
Yeah, we're incredibly fortunate to have a really great team of people, all incredibly ethical and we're all just driven by these great projects. So that I would say, I think our company, we're definitely tech first driven, because these ideas are what are, we're passionate about them. So there are definitely challenges when it comes to, right, like we like to make promises to the marketing team for when things are going to be ready, but we all know the reality of those situations, and the same thing can be said for the compliance piece of that. Like you said, we can't say that we are a decarbonized cloud platform yet, because we're not, right? It's
in 2 weeks we can
go. In 2 weeks we can, but not right now. And so it's
Can I touch on that really quick? This is why it's so important for me to have you guys on stage, and I keep all the NDA data points under my hat, and you guys tell the world what you're doing. Because I should not have said that. I should not have said in 2 weeks, because it's not quite there.
I said it.
Perfect case.
I think I was clear in disclosing that this will happen, it's underway. We've been working on it for a year. I didn't say it's done.
Perfect.
If I misled anyone,
Now you put it
it's a very
right.
mistake.
Thank you for letting me off the hook with that. In terms of intentions, why do you do what you do every day?
That's a really good question. Before I started working with Douglas, I was in video production and marketing here in the Seattle area, and getting into marketing was something that I was just like, wow. Well, I mean, it's interesting. I like the data-driven parts of it, but also a lot of it's very much just kind of manipulating people, and I was not crazy on that. Right? So when I was offered the opportunity to come join Douglas and learn about blockchain, really, that was when I took the leap and decided to dive in. Really, just was so excited about the possibilities that this technology brings. So the reality is, like, that's what was exciting to me, is like all the potential implications. And so the stuff that we work on, I fully believe is working still towards that, and so I really love it.
Can you talk a bit about how you measure success for the intentions piece of it? What are your KPIs, especially around the African project?
Great. Like, do you mean within the team, or like in the project itself, or
whatever matters to you?
So we definitely, it's important to us that our community is, so they're actually based in West Africa, the vast majority of our community. We're here in Seattle, obviously we've got a lot of producers there, but the vast majority of the community, the rest of it, is spread across the continent. So we really try our hardest to engage that community and say, what are the problems that you're facing, and why? And a lot of those problems are inherent in their current regulatory systems. So, that's a challenge that we face, right? Is how do we navigate that system that is obviously causing issues with people, right? So, we like to just try and listen to the community very much, but I don't know, as far as KPIs,
Erica, don't you think that so we've been fortunate enough lately to get some MOUs from national governments and engagement from interesting projects and people. And I think I wouldn't have gone in and said, oh, we need an MOU, we need 2 MOUs from this national government. But when these things come up, those indicate to me that we are making good progress, right? It's like you know it when you see it a little bit. Hard to anticipate that when you're trying to do cutting edge stuff.
When others are recognizing your intention and are ready to sign a contract with you, that's a huge signal. Absolutely. Well, I'd love to pivot over here to access granted, because he has a lot of regulatory landscape that he has to walk through. Maybe one of the most complex landscapes I've ever seen in a brand. Which is why we work so closely together, and why I really believe in his purpose to pursue C-Chain.
Yeah, cool. I think we're doing a lot more than just opening a seafood processing plant. We really want to develop this region, and really not just because of the opportunity that exists there, but really because of the impact that we can make. And that's where I think the intention part really comes to play. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think that's where intention really comes into play. We've partnered with the Master Tribe, who is the autonomous governing body for that region, for all of the tribal regions in Honduras. And again, our recent MOU was a real indicator of like people recognizing that intention, which is really meaningful for us. I think where we have a lot of things that we don't know yet. Christina is wonderfully coming onto my team in terms of surrounding yourself by the right people. I'm so grateful that we are part of the continuing network because I could not do this by myself. So,
We appreciate that. There's a number that we identified recently. Do you want to tell the audience here how we got to that number and what you're starting on June 1st? The number is 800,000 to 1 million.
yes, that is the number of lobsters that we processing each 9-month season, because it's going to be a 9-month season. It's quite funny because I hate seafood as well. But it really is like, this region is one of the prime locations in all of Honduras for catching lobster. It also gives us the opportunity to sort of show the world the power that an NFT Web3 protocol can create. We're so excited about that entire supply chain transparency. When we look at things like just a small IoT chip that can go on the tail of the lobster, and then anyone through that lobster's life cycle can explore where it's come from. All of the certifications exist there, fair trade, organic. But the thing that I think excites us the most is just back to intention. So when we start to look at things like royalties within an NFT protocol, when we start to look at, oh wait, like the person who caught this lobster is actually continuing to receive these royalties, and we can see without any shadow of doubt that they're getting paid what they should be getting paid. Right now, FDA standards basically step in when something leaves a processing plant. And that means that everything that happens before is completely unregulated. Like, that is where the problems are occurring in our region, and that's sort of one of the strangleholds that the people that operate within the tribes that we represent just don't have an opportunity to sort of step around. So we want to use NFTs and the power of Web3 to really allow that to come to the forefront, as well as like introduce gamification opportunities within like large-scale US-like retailers and supermarket chains, so that consumers start to not only see it, but also demand it of other products.
I'd like to expand on that slightly, but congratulations on that ambition alone. That is huge. The data transparency from the geolocation where it's picked up, all the way back to the port that it's processed and the plant that it's processed. I will fill in some gaps here for you. The current location of the closest plant is 100 miles up the coast, and it is not really beneficial for the Mazda tribes to be able to function with that. They're also about 2 weeks out from the time they drop it off at the plant to the time that they actually get paid for it. And as you can imagine, there's no current long-term royalties associated with the current payment plan. The reason I find this project so interesting is that in order to measure all those things, it's going to require geolocation tags, not just on the lobsters, but also on the ships, the ports, the actual data. I'll let you talk about how they're going to collect it there. But basically, the mobile data, these things in your hand, looking at UT Mobile, these things become really, really important about new financial systems. And the new financial systems all have regulations as well. So we tend to try and make sure that all the continuum members are ready to be able to sit in front of the big boys and defend their business model. So I see Johnny literally going, yep, you weren't joking, Christina, let's do it. Can you tell them a little bit about how sensitive you're being to coming into a tribe that obviously does not run around with a phone in their hands? How are you going to use wearables in the transition to becoming more mobile-centric? And how are you going to deal with power in an area that gets hit by hurricanes?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because in some ways we've had a lot of challenges to overcome, and in other ways having that blank canvas is actually going to simplify things. When we look at like blanket adoption, we know that almost everybody within the region is below the poverty line. We know that we're looking at up to 700,000 people within the total region as well. We'll start smaller than that, but when it comes to like token adoption, in an area that has no connectivity and no power, we are exploring opportunities like standardized micronuclear power that can literally come in on the back of a shipping container. We are also looking at sort of off-grid smart IoT poles. So poles will have any of the communication we need into them. They can run off solar. I think one of my favorite things about that is another intent message where these poles can also use as beacons to like alert for hurricanes, alert for floods, and alert for anything else that typically these people wouldn't know was coming until it hit them. So there's sort of a lot of benefits of how we can sort of tag and combine ideas together to really start building the communities out there that we see is the future that we are trying to build.
Absolutely. Do you have anything else to add to let the folks know about C-Chain before we pivot over to GoodBlock products?
Cool. The only thing about C-Chain, I think, outside of royalties, we are looking at expanding it then into a marketplace and also B2B sales, as well as sort of applying that same technology model to sort of the other commodities that exist in our area. Our second big hit after lobster, we're going to be working to really expand on the cacao industry out there. Currently, cacao sort of is mostly coming out of the Ivory Coast of Africa, yet the biggest consumer is out here in North America. We have the perfect biosphere to grow cacao there. We have farmers who are desperate for work but just don't have access to the global supply chain. And we want to allow them access to the global economy as well. So we will be expanding into those other regions once we sort of stress tested it in the Boston industry first.
I'll add a few more commodities. It's lobster, cacao, the mangrove area needs to be protected. It can be part of the carbon credit economies that we support. Also the reef, which can be handled with pictures and more data that scientists need to be able to study some things. And then also, of course, my favorite commodity, data. Own your data and data monetization, which we're gonna need a network. We're gonna need some kind of network that's gonna be able to support that. So I think we'll be able to figure it out. I'm just kidding, you guys. Okay, so I'm so excited to be a part of Access Granted and their platform, C-Chain. I'm also really, really excited to be working closely with the team at GoodBlock and their products, Ithaca and Aya2. They sound complicated. They will transform everything. And I'm just gonna say, just in case anyone is thinking it, I'll say it out loud. We want to be very sensitive to these regions that have not seen this technology or this influx of revenue, and just ensure that through transparency and good actors, that we don't have any kind of like pillars of the flower moon situation, because it really can be that disruptive. So these are big financial models that are backed by utility on blockchain. So as you're thinking about the product, also think about how that's going to impact the global economy over the next 10 years. We're measuring to 2030 because all the ESG regulations and the big global standards become locked in stone in 2030.
Yeah, I almost don't know where to start. So yes, we are definitely, it's when we talk about our projects in Africa, it's uncommon that Eric and I are here talking about, almost always as we've spoken about by our partners in Africa. It's just that, we're here and we do the technical side. So we not only try to be sensitive, we're extremely sensitive, and we let everybody take the lead. In fact, we're in the process of hiring a CEO and other executives for that process who are of that community and of the business, the international business community as well. So definitely that. It was so interesting to hear what you were doing because, like I said, we're a technology company that builds a lot of tools that we think will be needed. And I would say we've already built proof of concepts about 80% of the stuff you talked about, or higher, right? So imagine a way where you could. So we've got the NFC or the NFC tag. We built a proof of concept system where all these things go to a container. The container will track the temperature and geolocation. So it makes more sense than tracking the geolocation of every tag. You said you put it into a container, track that transaction, so you know where it is, track the container, track when it comes out of the container, goes into the next, storage unit or whatever. And then you only have, then you can track, it lets you also track, if it's sitting on a if all those lobsters are cooking on a tarmac somewhere, or if they're nice in the temperature you want. And we apply this originally for for pharmaceuticals, but the word's great for food, right? So, and so many things I would love to talk to you about, like those types of things. What we have built in AX2 is actually 100%, pick that up and put that, and so let's talk about AX2 for a second. It's a high speed, high capacity, layer 1 blockchain. It will be MasterCard level transactions. And the reason we know this is because I was the founder of the Telos Foundation, and Telos is, Telos, not the foundation, Telos Blockchain itself. In 2018, we launched with no ICO. I've always been very careful about regulations, right? So doing anything with the token has been unusual for me.
It was one of the first things I fell in love with your story, actually, is because you knew to not. I was very proud of you.
I'm much better at making things and making money, but I'm trying to, grow as a person, expand myself with other team members who are good at what I'm not. So we created, our goal was to create super high capacity L1 that was governable because it was captured by the elements that you.
What does that mean to my grandma who's sitting over? What does that mean?
Hi. Someone was talking about it. I think you were talking about that, right? Where there's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is decentralized, and yet there are a small number of players who have a huge economic stake in it, and therefore, put a thumb on the scale, some people feel, right?
We're kind of talking about the difference between a truly decentralized system and a centralized, decentralized hybrid system, and a centralized, fully centralized system, which we call Web2. A fully centralized system is often referred to as Web2.
So Telos was, and this is measured, this is by Baylor University, Telos was like a decentralized, fully decentralized competitor to Hedera in terms of transaction speed. In 2022, when the protocol that was underlying Telos and other blockchains like EOS was at risk because the company that had built that had basically run on their network, I got together with the guy who was running kind of, a leader at EOS, and we and a few other people, a small number of other people, created the Antelope Coalition to take over the ongoing development, and that's how we created things like instant finality and blockchain communication and things like that. And so when
Johnny, you share. I'll hang on to that. I probably just hang on to it.
When I say I know that we have I know what the capacity is because it's tested, and it's because within that community, I was one of the people who built all the next two, was launched the system where we built the next 2 years of development.
How long ago was that? It was
that was a little over 2 years ago that had started.
From the EOS to the Telos.
Oh, well,
EOS and Telos both launched in 2018. We were about 4 or 5 months behind them.
We're way off topic of your actual product. Just trying to plug out. You've been around a long time. You've built a lot of protocols.
The problem is so many people in this space make incredible claims that it almost bothers me because there's no basis to it. But I would love to So I get ahead of explaining why everything I'm saying is true. If you care about this, we can talk about it there, and I'll have to explain it. Let's talk about what people care about.
Well, I'll say it to everyone who's watching this after as well. If you care about any of these topics, you are probably already part of Continuum. You just don't know it yet. If you're interested in investing in projects like this and helping the CTOs and the ones and zeros people be able to bring these type of things to much larger scale, we also want to talk to you. That's the other half of the equation. So there's folks that are here on this stage that are doing amazing things. We at Continuum, we want everyone to know what we know about you guys. So I would love to kick it over to the audience here and ask for some Q&A. Do you guys have anything to share before?
So AF2 is a compliance and mass adoption based L1 that has a lot of features that people wanted for blockchain for a long time. Makes it very easy to use, even for the problem you have, where like in Africa, 60% of sub-Saharan African populations are rural and may not even have consistent electricity, let alone data access. So we're solving that and making it and making it work for them, solving problems like eliminating lost key issues and whatnot. Ithaca, on the other hand, is like I said, it's the first certified decarbonized cloud computing service in existence. The main players in the system are not going to do it until 23, and we are going to do it as soon as that paperwork's done, hopefully in the next 2 weeks.
We're really excited for the world to understand your products for Ithaca, which is the carbon solution for big data. Big data is taking up a ton of energy on the planet. And at Continuum, we really want to work with projects that are ESG forward. They understand we need to roll the doomsday clock back. If you're a climate change denier, I don't have a lot of time or patience for you. We are working in a specific direction that is actually working to empower the masses, and we're all here together on this little blue and green rock. I'd love to give Ms. Erica a chance to talk about the actual products or your work around Ithaca or AF2, anything that we can share from a product perspective.
Sure. I feel like Douglas probably covered it for the most part there. I guess did you have like?
I feel like what you do is a completely different vision than how Douglas says things.
Okay, this is the way I like to put it. I kind of just try to execute on his visions and like get ideas out of his noggin and into like executable actions and plans for our team. So yeah, a lot of it's kind of that extracting of information where possible and translating that. So.
We appreciate that. At Continuum, we call that a GSD person at the executive leadership level. Well, I'd love to ask one final question to you all, a quick answer, and then I'd love to turn it over to Q&A. We're going to let folks get to the amazing treats in the back of the room from our sponsors. What has it been like? We'll start with Douglas, so if we could kind of work that way. What has it been like being at Continuum? Why does Continuum matter in your roadmap?
I never really understand the deep import and expansive possibilities of anything I've done until I hear you describe it. You're really great at telling people, describing things and letting people know what it can mean and what all that's about, more than I would, and much more succinctly as well. So I think it's great. You're good at, you've really helped fill in a weakness that I have in quickly getting people to understand what we're doing. I get very bogged down in stuff that I find interesting and sometimes don't get the elevator pitch version very well. And you're great at doing that, and then also doing that to the right people, connecting. You know, I know that we're going to be talking. I know there's other people here that we have these tools and we aren't getting them out there to the right people to the extent, which means that they either have to reinvent it or whatever. And so those things are great about being with you. So I appreciate that.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Keep up the good work, because we couldn't champion you if it wasn't for all those ones and zeros that you crunched.
Cool. For Access Canada, I would say, at first I thought it was the known unknowns that like Christina was going to be amazing for, which she is. Don't get me wrong.
The mean mom in the room for sure.
But oh my god, the unknown unknowns. That is where Christina really helps building the apps and continuing. It's a network of amazing people, and it's really nice to have like-minded people around you and sort of share stories with other founders and other startups that have been through the same things that you're going through as well. But mostly aside from that community that you get, I think really filling in those gaps, like, Johnny, you can't do that. You need to, you need to realize what you're about to do and take a step back. And it's great because regulation in place is really hard. And I think that's just a wonderful thing that Christine's really helped us navigate through.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys being there week over week in the virtual networking. You meet a new crew every week. You have a heck of a testimonial. I'm really, really proud of the work that you've done over the last 6 months at Continuum. Congratulations to you. Miss Erica, I know we're part of the Good Block side, but you haven't come to my networking, girl.
I haven't, sorry. I will though, now that I know what it's about. So I was not the person on this necessarily networking side of the team. I'm new to the networking event, but I do know that Continuum's totally, like everyone has said here, really filled in gaps in their team's needs, and for us, it's that community of being connected and having these other people that share our passions and we can help each other, right? I think we all can agree that as humans, we need each other more than pretty much anything else. So it's great to have a place to come together. Thank you.
Sorry to steal the microphone. I'll say thank you to you for guiding. You guys, it's one of my favorite things to be out in the world and identify when someone needs Ithaca. It is my favorite thing to say, oh, you need great big storage? Oh, come talk to Good Block. Come right over. So thank you very much for the work that you do. Folks in the audience, does anyone have any questions? Would you like to come up here to the stage or shout them very loudly? And then I can repeat them. I can't quite jump down here, but does anyone have any questions for the panelists here?
Question.
Do you want to come on up?
Oh, okay. I need that success.
We're about to move into the fun mingling part, so we'll get the blood flowing.
All right. Okay. That's sorry. Hello. Hello, Johnny here. So we'll fight to the bitter end to who's left standing there. But my question is, and I appreciate the conversation around sensitivity. So why going into developing markets, and then even deeper, why go deeper going to indigenous communities, and then what accountability outside of what you've already discussed is there, like coffee, right? They've got fair trade, they got wage transparency, so anything around that would be cool to hear.
Super helpful. Thank you. Appreciate that. Johnny, I'm going to start with you, but Douglas, it's just as equal for your side, except I know the answer, so I'm curious if you're going to say it.
It's that impact. It really is about taking the opportunity that Web3 can bring and showing the world like the true power of it. If we can achieve this in a developing country, especially in a tribal region like Honduras, where they have unique challenges of their own within their own country. Proof of concept of a Web3 economy that is watertight in an environment like that, the world is going to have to stop and take notice. And that's really sort of the end game here, is to turn around and go, like, stop tripping over your own feet, take a look at what this is capable of, and really take it from there.
For our projects in Africa, Africa is the second largest continent by size and population, and it's the only really fast growing continent. It's 1.3 billion people. So there are indigenous populations, but we are looking at the entire cross section of the societies there in the 54 countries. So we don't put nothing gets we don't try to silo anything. We are doing this, I believe, because there's a great need there. I think if you look at impact, the greatest way to have this impact is to even just selfishly, selfishly solve the problem that is a remnant of colonialism and all the other reasons why Africa has a great population of basic people that it does not have the infrastructure that similar continents or European countries have. I look at it right now as China or India. You know, when I was in college, and somebody would have said, "Hey, China's going to run the world again," as they did for thousands of years, or India, you were going to outsource everything to India. People would have thought that was crazy, and yet now it's obvious to us, right? And I believe that with the right infrastructure, the exact same thing can happen and will happen with Africa. Africa can be a breadbasket for the world, but it's currently, a lot of those countries are having facing food insecurity. There's so many problems that we can solve. It's also the greatest area where we can solve, where we can start addressing climate change and carbon capture, because it's just massive. So if you were to look, the reason that I didn't set out to go, hey, Africa. I set out to go, even though I had traveled there as a younger person, I loved it. But I wasn't like, I'm focusing on this. I built a blockchain that was extremely performant and extremely low cost to operate. And as a result, people and we had grants to do cool stuff. As a result, all kinds of people will come to us from all over the world. We have people in South America too. But for whatever reason, there are a lot of just really highly capable people in Africa, men and women of different ages, mostly quite young, because the population's young. And they would come to me, and I would be so blown away by these people. And I would realize that if they had grown up, if they'd been here, they'd been born here, same people, their entrepreneurial spirit, their intelligence, everything they do, it would be phenomenally successful. I'd be one of them for advice, right? Which I also do. I think that we miss out. We, as an entire world species, right, culture, we miss out on opportunities that we can't afford to miss out on, right? Because we have real problems we have to solve, and we need every mouth that comes with two hands usually and a brain. We need those all engaged. That we need to not be at our own risk, right? I'm not saying any of this is altruistic. Our own risk, we are losing out on potential geniuses who are just hamstrung by lack of access because they were born in some rural place in Honduras or in Congo or whatever, right? I don't want to miss out on that. I think that's a huge loss, and so I want to. And I think it's super weird that I am even in a position to do this, but I want to, I've been so inspired by the people that I work with, that I want to make sure that these other people who I haven't found, right, who haven't, I'm irrelevant, but the other people haven't had a chance to come out and build something because they just haven't had the access, but they have the talent and the drive and everything. I want to make sure that their great ideas come out. Right? And to do that, and because we've got to solve, I'm a true believer that there are some real big problems we have to solve in our planet right now. I think we can. I think we finish the term paper, the night before it's due, right? And just as human beings, I think we'll do that, but we need everybody's great, we need all the best ideas. And I don't think it's acceptable to leave a billion people out of the equation when 1 or 10 or 1 million of them could be like game changers. That's what drives me. And I know it's super. I feel that what I bring to this is I bring some ideas about how to do things. I bring we bring just enough of a background to show people, you know what, these crazy things we talk about really can be done. But it's all about the people who are at the front lines doing it. We always say, how do we, you guys are the problem. If I just solve some problem that I think exists 10,000 miles away, it's not going to work. So those are the principles that guide me and the reasons that I do it. I'm worried, and I'm very worried about the world. And the only way for me to personally address my worry about the path that the world is on is to take action to try to improve it. Otherwise, I'd be curled up in a ball somewhere or something. That's what I do. Great question. I don't know if I answered your question.
I'll wrap that up a little bit and just say that those of us at Continuum, we know we have to be ESG standard compliant. A lot of them are building the systems that you out in the world will end up using by 2030. And I would also say that we're all very open to feedback. We want more feedback from the world in this time of what us technologists would call product requirement gathering, right? We really want to get the feedback of what do you need this to happen. So in those regions, we're mostly trying to get the feedback directly from those regions. I know I work with Johnny every day, we talk about getting the feedback directly from those regions. And we do that through data. So the data systems and how all this comes together becomes really important. I want to thank all of our panelists here because we're about to wrap up for the next part of the session here. But before we do, does anyone have any other questions before we wrap up?
We have time for one or two questions.
Okay, no questions. I'm actually shocked, but that's okay. I think we leave with data points. I'm sorry?
I can ask you a question.
We would love that. Would you like to come up and ask?
So given the recent regulatory announcement on Bitcoin, what do you think is next for regulation in this space? Because one of the things we run into when we try to prioritize stuff is, just skepticism, especially from a large corporation. So how do you see that playing out anymore?
I think
Could you restate the question?
she wants, how do you think the regulatory landscape is going to evolve beyond just Bitcoin being regulated?
Great question.
In this country.
I will happily answer that.
Can I add one layer
But
just
also
really
fast.
quick? No. I'm gonna go
Do you
super
have any
fast.
ideas?
One of the main reasons that a lot of the teams have to do things overseas is because the US involvement landscape is not clarified. One of the biggest things I think we see is in the next 2 years that will become a lot clearer through tax code and UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, and things at that layer. We know it's in works. In the regions where we have to do the crossover, we basically say continuum, it doesn't matter where you're domiciled. If you have one US consumer, you are under US regulations. Every branded continuum knows that. Douglas, your turn.
Okay, if you wanted to inhibit a product as a government, what's the best way to do it? Is it to write strict regulations, or is it to write no regulations and say that the old right? So
Need regulations.
right. So what our government, there's been military regulations around Bitcoin already. It's only beginning, and it's coming out of court cases, and the regulatory system has been trying to regulate through deal making with the SEC, and finally there's some court cases that are adding real clarity to what people in our position think is a more reasonable reading of the situation. So by having no clear guidelines and yet suggesting that inappropriate existing laws would apply, it means that no one knows what they can do, and yet they still risk being prosecuted for doing it the wrong way.
Oh,
Right.
and the rules can change from what's wrong today and 2 years from now, what's wrong 2 years from now.
Right, but the biggest thing I think is the threat is that if there were just no laws, then you couldn't break any laws, and usually you can't be charged with something retroactively. But if you say, oh, well, it's really this law that already existed, then you can be charged, so there's no clarity. That has been the US official regulation system. Now, there's some legal things, like the recent Ripple decision was very interesting. There's finally regulation of a block of the Bitcoin, the offering of the Bitcoin ETFs, which has now become the fastest growing asset class in ETF in both the history of the world by a factor of 10, right? So what I think is likely to happen in the US is that the US is going to be relegated to consumer status of these, and no longer an innovator status. Right now, in his most recent budget, the president has suggested and brought back this idea of a general 30% Bitcoin energy mining tax, even for what the cost would be, what the market cost would be, even somebody's creating all the energy themselves via solar or wind or whatever, and it's applied to that. If this tax were to go forward, and I think it will not, the fact that it's really come back up as a way to, they would have to pay 30% of that, whatever the market value is, even if they're not using that energy. That's purely restricted. I don't think that will pass government courts, but the fact that it will have to go through courts and everything means that once again, we in this country don't have clarity. So to regulate, 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, when I started trying to build these types of things, right? I said, well, I'm not going to mess around. There's so much we can do here that I'm going to just tackle areas that don't have a ton of extra hurdles, right? So I was like, well, you can do so much in medical data. Yeah, good luck with that. I'm not going to tackle HIPAA because I'd rather do land titles, right? It's about the same in huge markets and stuff like that, but I don't have to, with land titles reporting that, I don't have to do all this medical privacy stuff, right? There's similar things happening in token issues and whatnot. So I've been in this for a long time. I've never really launched a token, right? In like a token sales type token. And that's partly because I'm an American and I don't want to do that. And I want to stay really close on regulation. So Americans they're either like me, right? Who are like, okay, I want to build something cool. I don't want to go to jail for it later on or whatever. So that's one camp. And so then what do we do? Well, we get on the phone with our lawyers and establish things in Switzerland or Dubai or Singapore or whatever, right? So those things go out of America, even if much of it's still America. It's basically America's lost opportunity. The same thing, by the way, is going to happen with AI. Like, if you think that they are hard on crypto, man, you are going to wish for the days when it was just how hard they are on crypto when AI comes. And it's already starting. If you've been down this road and a few technologies, you see how things happen, and you see the recurring patterns. I would say that, like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, the things that people are absolutely up in arms about with AI are going to be crypto regulation problems look quaint by comparison.
Sounds like a long road.
But
all
right, but there's one caveat to that, which is these are all absolutely necessary technologies. They are technologies that will go forward because, and I know that many people are like, oh well, we're still deciding on Bitcoin and stuff like that. For me, that's so obvious. Like it'd be like in your area of telecom, and I'm like, well, I don't know if 5G is going to really take on.
We're part of the blockchain solution. So
yeah. So and the same thing will happen with AI. I mean, with AI, it's so obvious because the people. She's like, just have me shut
Where I'm like, come sit on the stage.
The people who use it, I'll wind out. The people who use it will win over the people who don't use it, right? And even let's look at it like by war, right?
Less than that. Really short.
Okay. The people who employ it will beat the people who don't.
Competitive advantage.
The people with the guns beat the people who don't have the guns. And so therefore we all have guns. All the countries with the bombs beat the countries that don't have bombs, so therefore everyone has bombs. That's what will happen with AI, and that's what will happen with blockchain, because these are key competitive technologies that people just don't see. Thank you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Happy with it. It's good standing and chatting with you. I know you were just stand for so long.
Thank you, Nita, for the question. We really appreciate it. I would say, in summation to everyone out there who's listening, basically, we know that in the next few years, these blockchain and AI brands will need to be regulated. And since we're not seeing any authorities really coming out and giving clear guidance, we wanted to build something at Continuum where the brands could self-identify what they're doing. If they did raise on a token, that here's their security filing. If they did a cybersecurity audit, here's the firm that did it. If they have a lawyer, this is the lawyer who governs their contracts. To the regulatory aspect of things, I think that the US cannot afford to not think about regulations right now. We're in an election year, and by the time something gets passed, it's already too late. I can tell you there's things happening in Washington, D.C., because it takes a long time for the House of Representative bills to go through where they need to go through. It takes a very long time for some of the other smaller committees to reach consensus.
Thanks, Christina.
We need more voices to be able to standardize, but I will say that at Continuum, we assume that you are security until you prove otherwise, and you need to be able to prove from a decentralized standpoint or a paperwork standpoint, and that's how we start to be able to understand what are these brands and how are they regulated.
Thank you.
With all those questions around regulation, how is T-Mobile approaching some of the companies that they are interested in that do utilize these technologies that are focused on emerging use cases that are often misunderstood because the technology is recently being applied or newly being applied? How does T-Mobile sift through all these companies?
That's a great question. So we also have an innovation process which we call each month, right, based on change. And of course we have an army of lawyers because we're T-Mobile. But in our model, for what wholesale does, what the MVNO team does, we come from a place where the brand is owned by the partner and the consumer is their consumer. So our model actually gives us a lot of flexibility to almost not get involved in some of those pieces, as long as it's our safe for and safe for the pieces that we offer, and that's kind of how we go about it. Because their brand is proprietary to them, the customer is proprietary to them. And so where we are in our journey is working on blockchain solutions, not necessarily financial transactions.
Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for coming, Devin.
Is it really okay if I ask okay, all right, just checking. First of all, I have about 8,000 questions for you. Would love to follow up offline. But as your role of Senior Director of Product Management and Partnerships at T-Mobile, what is your day-to-day thought when you hear about a blockchain or AI partnership potential? How does that shape from your desk into the bigger thesis of the leadership team at T-Mobile?
That's a good question. So first of all, I find it very interesting. So at personal level, this is always something new and exciting coming through the door. And a lot of my team is here, and I think we all feel the same way. We're all a little crazy to believe that. That's why we do this job too. But we actually have a regular process where you come in, we sort of get the idea, share what the market could look like. It's an internal wholesale innovation process. In addition to that, T-Mobile has multiple programs targeted at innovation because with our investment in 5G, it is critical that we all find applications that customers want to use on a daily, weekly, hourly, second basis. You know, I was listening to the numbers you shared on the blockchains, right? Our transaction processing is each one of you texting or calling or on your phone right now. So we love to get some of these technologies in and grow them together, but we have a formal process to answer the question straight for things coming in, going through. If you need support with connectivity, we have another program called Leverage. So if you want to consume connectivity on your own, you want to go play with that portal, it's publicly available. You can see what we offer. Our network is going to be programmable too. And so, something as simple as a SIM change could cause havoc if somebody ported your SIM out accidentally and then you lost access to your funds that you had on whatever form of crypto or blockchain that you're a fan of or invested. And so just providing security in that space, I would say. And security is greatly enhanced with 5G. And so that's something we offer. If you have a gaming application or you want to work through some XR cases, and that needs AI as an example, that's going to be our space, right? Think about GPUs as a service. Those are spaces that we're looking at right now. And we have a formal process to get through that because we've had about 3 to 4 years to dabble in 5G and get it out of this country. I hope that answered it, and I'm happy to chat with you.
Absolutely. If I could have a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Has T-Mobile had any conversations internally about owning your data and what that might look like in the next 10-year roadmap?
Yeah, that's again back to your regulation conversation. So we very much believe in customer consent and only action based on that with whatever they need is where we are not journey right now. So yes, everybody's thinking about it a whole lot, but we're very high interest company, so we just share data that the customer wants to share with you.
We really appreciate that, and thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate your feedback. And on a personal note, thank you to T-Mobile for letting me cut in line at concerts and all the extra benefits that I get with T-Mobile.
We'll pass it on to the T-Live team there.
Magic Tuesdays. All right, guys. Yeah, we'll keep the questions short, though. You have to promise me that.
I'll keep it short. So, if I were a consultant working with T-Mobile and saying, like, how can you use blockchain? There's a lot of ways that I would think about. Right now, the innovation line we're talking about, you're large, it seems like, at least as you described so far, you're largely thinking about ways, how can we utilize our network better? But I haven't heard you say how you could incorporate blockchain technology into your own operations, such as accepting blockchain payment, having a non-currency loyalty rewards system based on non-currency tokens to be very useful. There's like a number of use cases that you could use that would probably lower your costs and keep up your reputation for being a tech leader. What's your appetite for that?
We are evaluating that. We always want to be more efficient, especially with the age of AI. That's a huge area of focus, and there's a synergy between the two technologies to solve essentially how we work within our company and what products we use to serve our business functions. We're looking at that in our roadmap. I'm happy to follow up with you something specific.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I already have a job, but.
Nita, I don't know if you spoke about helium at all, but you could talk about it after.
Clearly, was never enough to you. I said helium 5 times in this video. Yeah, we did talk about helium. What would you like to know?
I'll let him talk about the guest question first.
Yeah, no, I'm going to keep it really short, actually. What is T-Mobile doing with AI? I haven't heard much talk about the AI component, but a lot of Web3 and blockchain.
So we're actually doing a lot with AI. We launched our first AI MBA, I want to say around next year international, Humane, and they have this little AI pin that you just put on you. It knows everything about you, which I find kind of interesting, but there's a market for that. And then as you're running or walking, right, it's talking in your ear, you're not looking at your phone, kind of run across the street, crashing into someone, don't do that. And it translates languages. It has ambiance music for you depending on your room or your mood. So there's a bunch of different things it solves for. And maybe my eyes would have reached better if I had something like that 10 years ago. So we launched an actual product for that to market. In addition to that, AI needs a lot of processing. And the way 5G SA is built and the way our network is built, we are close to the edge fundamentally. So there are GPUs in devices. We would be able to offer connectivity for that processing is one idea for the future. And there are many such things that we have. And then of course AI for how we work. So how our teams work, how we do the regular functional development, and other places are also an area we're investing.
You say it translates languages?
Sorry, did you say it translates languages?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, because I'm going to Japan soon, so I'll speak the language. I need a translator.
Yeah, me too, and I travel because it's impossible to speak. I speak about 6 to 7, but even then, that's it. You can't go past that when you travel, so very useful for that.
But by the end of this year, all new phones coming out by the end of this year, at least mid-level and above, will have a neural processor unit built on their PROC. So
Samsung already released
so
something.
fast, you know.
I'm sure Apple's going to do
But all your existing customers with older phones will want that same feature, which you can offer through your GPU and NPU as a service.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that evolves because the integration into the OEM is just a great experience for most. So.
I'm not we're just not.
We're going to hang out and chat with you. Is there anything else that anyone's mind? Well, thank you for hanging out in this sunny Seattle evening.
Thank you everyone who came here. You joined us recording if you missed some of the talks like I did when I was asking follow-up questions. So if you missed some of the talks, these talks will be added to our YouTube channel, and as a follow-up, you will obviously even get an email with links to the video, links to the pictures, and I would really appreciate, and I'm just going to keep this out, but I would appreciate if you could take a moment later on, you can take a picture and leave with it. But there is a link to a survey. If you can, please fill out that survey when you have time at home. I'd appreciate it, because that helps us understand what kind of topics people want to listen to, how we can improve our events, and what you found interesting. More importantly, if there are people in the audience who also want to join us as speakers, again, for us, it's more important that we bring people up who have the knowledge to share. So if you're down there in the audience and you're thinking, oh, I could do a better job, or even if you're not thinking about that, if you think that, hey, I could go up there and share my knowledge, please fill out that survey and we'd love to have you at one of our future events. We don't ask for the speakers, sometimes we also have startups come and pitch here, and we don't ask any of them to pay to be up there on the panel, because again, these are all community-led events. That being said, we also have 2 more events, one in San Francisco coming up on March 20th, that's just next week, during the Youth Developer Conference. We have over 200 people who have already registered for that one. And then if you are traveling to NFT NYC, we have an event in NFT NYC too. And then we have another event in Dubai, Token 2049. So I look forward to seeing you all there. And we do have some pizza and bread and chocolate cakes. So please feel free to grab a bite, have fun, end the evening on a sweet note with the chocolate and the cake, and feel free to network. Thank you again, everyone. Please give yourself a round of applause. Thank you.